Hello and welcome to Longship Gaming. Today we're talking about Star Wars, specifically Star Wars Unlimited Shadows of the Galaxy Draft, here at the midpoint of this cycle before Twilight of the Imperium comes out. So this is about, at the time of this recording, I've done about 8 drafts. I think we're 8 or 9 weeks into the cycle. Got about a month or so, month and a few weeks left. And just wanted to go back and have a look at the cards that I thought were going to be great or not so great, or leaders, and where we're at this point in the cycle. I will of course link to those videos in the description below, and I'd be interested in knowing what you've encountered with your drafts, and whether or not there are cards that performed way better than you expected or didn't perform very well. So, as I said, we're about halfway through the Shadows of the Galaxy draft cycle. Now, I haven't played against every leader, nor have I played with every leader. I'm very conservative about the types of leaders I do tend to play. I don't really stray into the riskier ones, like Kylo or Bo-Katan, for example. But this is the way it is. There's so many leaders. There's no way you can meet or you can play against or play with every single one of them. Be very unlikely. So at this point, I've done about 8 drafts, mostly best of 3. There's like one best of 1 in there. And at this point, my goal is always to go to at least have a positive winning record, so to be 2-1 overall in the drafts, meaning winning 2 out of 3 matches. And out of the 8 I've done so far, I've gone 2-1 in 5 of the 8. So I'm kind of meeting where my goal is. No 3-0s yet, but thankfully no 0-3s either. So, but in overall, with winning matches, I'm at a 54% win rate. If you just count not the positive win rates, but the fact that I've gone 2-1 over all of those drafts. Which, you know what, that's perfectly fine. I think that's where this game should be aiming for, is that 50% win rate. And I will say that the competition in our area, at both face-to-face games and 401, where I've done these drafts here in Toronto, the competition is extremely good. There's people coming in all the time to play, but there's a core of players, and everybody, the level of competition has risen and risen and risen. It's been a lot of fun. And I'll say that overall, in terms of the one I've had the most success with so far, has been Bosk, in both blue and green. A lot of fun. And one thing I should note, I don't usually talk about rares here, but I think my most, I want to say not most winningest, the most positive rare that I've gotten is Van Brace Flamethrower. And I've been finding that if it's played against me in a game, my opponent's likely to win. If I get it out, I have it in my deck, and I'm going to be able to play it. It leads to basically having a huge advantage. That in draft, I found that card was quite the bomb, even compared to some of the legendaries that are out there. So, in terms of where we're at for the leaders, I only have 1 leader rank change. I believe that Hondo, I put him down to the bottom at a 3, thinking that Smuggle would not be as relevant. Turns out the Smuggle is actually a lot stronger. Certainly much stronger than Capture. Capture really is there's only a few cards that do it, and the ones that do it aren't particularly powerful. I don't really see, and never really have been blown out by playing either playing Capture cards or actually having Capture cards used against me. I actually tend to avoid them now. It just seems on the fairly weak from a power perspective. Smuggle, on the other hand, even though there aren't that many, I think I said there was only about 13 Smuggle cards in common or uncommon. There are some really good ones at the rare level. And Honda actually has, comes out on 6. He's got a 3-7 stat line, and he's got raid 1, so he's hitting for 4-7, and that extra experience that you get from playing out a Smuggle card is actually fairly relevant. I have played against someone in the last game of a draft, and ended up with it was so synergistic and had all the really good smuggle cards, and it was really quite good. So I had him at 3. I think he's a 2. I think he's just as good as the rest of the common leaders. I think he's pretty solid. As I said, Smuggle has been far stronger than I expected across all the aspects. Timely intervention, covert strength, vigilant pursuit, craft, and armed to the teeth are all extremely solid choices at the common and uncommon level. And I don't know if you hear rolling around behind me, but that's my cat playing with a toy, so I apologize for that. As far as cards, I've got some here that are dropping from rank 1, so basically pick one, pack 1, pick 1, down to rank 2 or even 3. So Fenrau has not been as impactful as I expected them to be. When you're playing, you're playing at 6. There aren't. It's a hard choice at 6 because that's around the time you bring in your leader, and unless you are entirely sure that you have an upgrade in hand to play, it's not really going to be that relevant. I've yet to see anyone or myself be able to play that effectively on turn 6. I mean, ideally you'd be playing them under, say, Saxon, play a Brutal Traditions on defend. It costs a lot less, and then reduces the power of more than likely your opponent's leader, so you can have your leader deal with them. But again, haven't really seen it. Not a terrible card, but certainly not a pack 1, pick 1. Clone Deserter and Cartel Turncoat are 2 of those cards that have that bounty ability to offset the low cost, the cost of 1 for each one of them. I thought they'd be a lot more impactful for early game tempo. I really don't feel that they are anymore. Yes, under Ray, they're fairly good, but drawing a card in this format, although is not huge if you let your opponent do it, it is a bit of a, it can hurt you if you're playing against Bosk, let's say, and it just enables their abilities, or his ability to ping you. So yeah, not terrible again, but certainly not pack 1, pick 1. Spare the Target. Hardly seen this one played at all. It's basically a waylay with an upside, but only in heroic. And most of the heroic decks I'm seeing are playing in CAD. Most of the cunnings I'm seeing are being played in villainy rather than heroic. So this one really has not been that effective. And Wanted is a very difficult one to pull off. I've yet to ever really see that trigger to get those 2 friendly resources, even though it's a 0 cost. It definitely is the weaker of the bounties. So that one drops down to a 2 as well. One that drops all the way from 1 to 3, I thought it would be worth it to overpay for a new adventure, but it isn't really. It's too costly even for that effect, even to play for stuff on your own. There are much better cards I'd rather just pay for in Cunning just to get a body on the board than to try and be tricksy with an ability like this. So, I mean, McClunky, I was just saying Cunning takes the place of playing a new adventure, but far and above. Just so much more effective. And costs far, far less. So unfortunately this one drops to a 3. The double aspect really isn't worth it. And going from rank 2 down to rank 3, ones I just do not like to see. Weequay Pirate Gang, I absolutely despise getting this in a pack. It is, a 4-cost 3/3 ambush. By the time you're playing out, that 4 cost is having no effect on the board whatsoever, especially when you compare it to somebody like Zuckuss. Oh, sorry, Forlom, not Zuckuss. And a smuggle cost, it really isn't worth smuggling. I mean, if you're in command and you have no choice but to play these when you're trying to get to your 30, then fine, try and smuggle it out. But just an awful card, last ditch effort sort of card, even in Hondo. Bo-Katan, I thought she might be worth overpaying for a double aggression aspect, but I decided in the end that no, she is definitely not worth it. Paying 4 for a 3/3 with no real ability on the board and the drawing of the card is not that impactful in draft. So, and then Ruthless Assassin, another card I really don't like. I mean, the only benefit is that it does have Underworld and Bounty Hunter, so you might be able to, if you're in villainy and you have a Toro Calican, you can trigger him. But at the same time, a 3/3 Overwhelm is next to useless, even that early in the game. And when played, deal 2 damage to a friendly unit. So you can play this on turn 1, hit itself, and then it's just really not worth it. It's basically a less worth it, overcosted Stormtrooper. So cards that went up though from rank 3 to rank 2, Brutal Traditions actually tends to be a lot more solid in Vigilance villainy than I thought it was going to be. The ability to play it back under the conditions of one of your enemies' units being defeated, that's pretty good. That's actually good value. I played against somebody who had 2 of these in their deck, and it worked very well for them. They just kept cycling it back and making it much harder for me to remove their units. The +2 hit points on it are really worth it. Clan Ren, I was down on this one, but really it comes in as a 2-cost 2/3. Mandalorian in the right deck is useful. Under Rey, also useful because you can bump them up again. You can always put on somebody else who needs it. It's fairly versatile. As a 2-cost 1/2, not great, but sometimes you just need to put that onto the Mandalorian Guardian to give it Sentinel or something like that to bump up its abilities. Or Follower of the Way, for example. Just to get in early damage. I think it's much better than I initially thought. Collection Star Hopper, it's a 2-cost 2/2 in command. Really, I would ignore it for its smuggle, although it's not that expensive to smuggle it out. If you absolutely need a ship out in space under command, it's not a bad little early play. Pillage, this one can be backbreaking in the right deck. So, especially if you're playing against some kind of aggro deck, you pillage your opponent's hand. I've been hit by this a number of times, and you end up having to top deck, which is not a nice feeling. Or even worse, at the start of your turn, not be able to play anything at all, so you better hope you have some smuggle to be able to play out. Smuggle Starfighter, not a great stat line, but because you're playing it in Cunning, you're going to have Underworld anyway. If you control another Underworld unit, give the enemy unit -3. That's a good sort of tempo play. Whoops, I've gone too far. It's a good tempo play when you need it. Again, a 2/2 in space for 3 is not awful. The smuggle is kind of a harsh cost, but it's not too terrible. I'm not sure why I put Blackstone Starfighter all the way at the bottom. In Villainy, a 3/2 for 3 Sentinel can be pretty solid. And it's also Underworld, so it will trigger CAD, for example. And Mercenary Gunship, well, if you can't have or don't have a Kylo's tie, you can always play this wonderful generic Mercenary Gunship. 3/2 for 2 is a good rate, and by the time the turn comes that your opponent may, for some reason, want to spend 4 resources to bring it to their side, that's not usually going to be the case. It's going to be removed pretty quickly. You're going to use it to remove something on your opponent's side in space. So not a terrible card at all. A good replacement for Kylo's tie if you don't have it. So again, not quite maybe as strong and constructed, but a pretty solid card in draft. Going from rank 2 to 1, these have turned out to be pretty significant in the games that I've played and played against. So Village Protectors, have you ever been in a draft where you have your opponent draft 3 of these, and what a miserable speed bump it is? Well, it's Village Protectors. They can completely stall out your game plan, especially if you're in aggro. They're pretty solid for what they do, with both Sentinel and Shielded for only 3 and a 2/2. And again, works well with Rey. Rose Tico, in a lot of cases, you are going to be able to sacrifice her shield to give her the 2 experience, maybe even on top of the 1 experience that she got from Rey, and then she becomes an absolute terror for her cost. She is extremely difficult to remove. Even if you don't get the experience off of it, then running her as a 2/6 is not bad. You know, chips away at the things you need to chip damage off of. Yeah, so again, pretty solid. Vigilant Pursuit Craft, not a bad sentinel for 3/5 for 5. Again, pricey, but that's what you get. But at smuggle cost at 7, sometimes you just want to be able to slow roll your opponent, or keep cards in hand, or keep initiative when you can, and just playing that a good solid sentinel in space is sometimes really worth it. And on the ground side, the Pirate Battle Tank has great utility in command villainy. A 4/6 is nothing to sneeze at on the ground, and smuggle cost is only 1 more. Whenever I get these in a pack, I'm always hoping, if I don't take it, that it actually wheels to me or nobody else is in command villainy. It is quite the roadblock for to mess up your opponent's game plan. The Freetown backup, a 1/4 for 2 doesn't look that great, but giving another unit +2/+2 for the phase can be pretty significant. So play that out on turn 1. On turn 2, attack for the measly 1, but then give whatever you've played, if you get a chance to play, which you probably will. It's a 1/4. To give something else that you need to have survivability, say a blocker, say it's Village Protectors, who knows what it is, can be pretty good. And that +2/+2 is not insignificant to get over to some of the speed bumps that you need. So I think it's a pretty solid choice. Again, works well with Ray. Adelphi Patrol Wing. This one I dread actually seeing across from me if I'm playing against Command Heroic. This thing just warps games. It's a solid 4/6 in the air for 5, but that +2 attack, or immediate attack when playing it, is not to be ignored at all. Very significant, especially on turn 5, or I should say the turn that it comes out. So turn 4 can be played. Very, very significant. So then we have 2 of the best bounties in the game, both again in command. So Bounty Hunter's Quarry and Price on Your Head. Price on Your Head is invaluable if you don't have access to I'm forgetting the heroic command card. Oh, Spark of Hope. That allows you to ramp. This is one of the few methods of ramping. I see this pop up in a pack. I am almost now, unless this is a very strong, very, very strong rare in my colors, taking this one. Ramping and getting your leader at 1 turn ahead is always very valuable. And this is very easy to pull off here. Bounty Hunter's Quarry, a 1 cost to get out something 3 or less for free. There's a lot of good 3 or lesses out there. Village Protectors, for example. Cassian, etc. Like, really strong choices, depending on your colors. Very much worth it for the cost of only 1. And lastly, Cassian Andor, but primarily for his smuggle. He's still pretty good as a 3/5 for 3. He's potent in that regard. And he only costs you 2 more with smuggle, and he comes in ready. So I'm never sad to see Cassian come up when I'm in those colors. Definitely a pack 1, pick 1 if I need him. And of course for cunning, Lurking TIE Phantom. Not much more needs to be said about this. It's such a great turn 2 play. Raid 2 on a 2/2 flyer. Cannot be captured, damaged, or defeated by enemy card abilities. So you have to stick something in front of it, or use something like Mystic Reflection to get rid of it. But yeah, you're basically going to have to throw a ship in front of it to stop it. Otherwise, it can run away with the game. The Falcon, actually, it's for an uncommon, it's really strong. 6 cost, 5/5 with ambush, and a smuggle cost that's the same, but you just lose ambush. I'm never sad to see that if I'm in Cunning Heroic. And Cloud Rider, it's basically just 2 cost removal that early in the game. Always happy to see a Cloud Rider available just to maintain that the tempo. There are many turn 1 plays for your opponent that you can answer quite easily with a Cloud Rider. Assuming you're going second, I'm always happy to see it. So, oh, we have a cat visit. Hello. Yes, she wants to know what I'm talking about. Say hi. Say hi to everybody there, Esme. Hello. Oh, okay. Let's put her down. Oh, she's snagged. There we go. Okay. So, in summary, I figured this format would be a bit slower, and it was, as people got used to the smuggle mechanic, but now people are very used to it. So, yes, a bit slower, but not overly so. Not since the early weeks do I see best of 3 games going to time. People have really gotten used to it, and of course they know which of the smuggle cards they have available that are good and worth playing, so it's easy enough for people to know where they're going to be playing in turns ahead with it. Command does not turn out to be as particularly weak as I thought it was going to be. When you look at what I was saying about the, let's go back to our cards going up from rank 2 to rank 1. There are 5 in there that I believe are much better than I initially suspected. So I think they're actually pretty good, largely off the back of those 2 bounties. Cunning still remains strongest, though. It has great synergies. It's got ambush. Although, you know, I don't think CAD is an auto win, and there is a lot of competition for CAD. I think things are sort of smoothed out, and people aren't automatically reaching for cunning all the time. But again, very, very strong, especially if you're able to get those important pieces like Enfys. Like I've faced decks that had Enfys, Fennec as a unit, not the leader. Forlom and Zuckuss, and those are things that you just do not want to see across the table from you. And lastly, synergy really matters in the set. Big risks can reap big rewards, so I tend to be fairly conservative when it comes to playing cards in this format. So I'm not taking big swings and trying to play Finn or Sabine, but I have played against Finn and Sabine decks that were incredibly synergistic. That by the end of the draft, because no one else was snapping up those Mandalorians, if you ever face a Bo-Katan a Bo-Katan blue that has access to almost all of the Mandalorian either upgrades or characters, and how they're all basically piling buffs and abilities onto one another, and then she's pinging all the time. Extremely potent, extremely strong, and difficult to deal with. But sometimes you take those big risks and you say, you know what, I'm going to try and do this, and sometimes it really pays off. I've seen that with Finn too. So never count any of the choices out that can be extraordinarily strong. So that's it for now. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this draft format, what you're hoping will happen in the next few weeks when we say goodbye to it, or in about the next month or so, after I publish this, next month or so, to see what happens with the next set, which I'm very much looking forward to, with a whole set of new mechanics. But I'm still really enjoying Shadows of the Galaxy. In fact, I'll be going to a draft tonight for it. So yeah, let me know what you think of the leaders, where I still may be wrong or where I may be right. What are your MVP cards in this set, even amongst the leaders or the rares or legendaries? You know, Van Brace Flamethrower, still love it. I would love to know if anybody else has encountered that phenomenon, but maybe it's just me. Anyway, until next time, thanks very much for watching, and happy gaming. Thank you so much for watching Longship Gaming. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It will really help the channel to grow and improve. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when more Longship Gaming content goes live. Until next time, happy gaming.